And joining us today in our Book Talk segment, great to welcome the New York Times best-selling author of The Fast Diet. He has a brand new book out called Fast Exercise, The Simple Secret of High-Intensity Training. We're joined today by Dr. Michael Mosely. And Doctor, good to talk to you. How are you today?
Very good, thank you.
Good to have a chance to chat with you for a couple of minutes. You're kind of covering both gamuts there of good health. You had the diet book, and now you have fast exercise, and I like the fact that you can do it in 10 minutes or less a day.
Absolutely, because most people know they should be doing exercise, but frankly, very few people do the levels that are recommended. I think less than 20% of Americans do. And a lot of people say that's because of lack of time. So I think this basically says if you can't even spend a few minutes of time, surely everyone can spare a few minutes a day.
I think what really appeals to most people, like you said, the time factor, but also it's the intensity of it. You can even do a couple of minutes of maybe sprints or whatever exercise you do, and that's almost as good or better than running 10 or 15 miles a day of jogging, which really probably does some damage to you in effect, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a whole body of science behind this because a lot of these sports physiologists, sports scientists now realize that it's all about short bursts of intensity rather than longer periods, which don't seem to have quite the same benefit. It's the intensity which builds up these little power cells in your muscles, and they go on burning fat, not just when you're doing the exercise, but for many hours afterwards.
This is kind of based a lot on it, from reading your book, what a lot of professional athletes have been training like this for years, the intensity of it and training the muscles to be able to kind of explode if you're a runner or a basketball player or a football player. It's that type of training, isn't it, that you can apply to even if you're not a professional athlete?
Absolutely. And what happened is that it's moved from the area of super athletes to people who are overweight, diabetic, older. It's a different type of regime. It's much shorter. It's not as demanding. People think of high intensity, a lot of people think of something like insanity, where they go and do this workout which lasts 4 or 5 minutes, and which you'd have to be super, super fit to do in the first place. The regime that I'm recommending consists of very short bursts, as little as 20 seconds, done 3 or 4 times, and the whole thing takes 3 or 4 minutes, and then it's over with. You're not at risk of having a heart attack or anything like that. It really is incredibly safe and very manageable.
Hey, before we get into some of the actual exercises that you recommend, I know you have a whole section about the blood and blood levels of sugar and really how that really is a big factor. And I think you have to do a whole thing about glucose tolerance. And a lot of people, I guess, they feel that run down. That's because their blood sugar isn't in the right proportion.
Yes, I mean, I think blood sugar is a big thing. The biggest problem in the UK health system, and I think probably in America at the moment, is the enormous number of people who are diabetic or pre-diabetic. It's a rate which is rising at a phenomenal level. So a decade ago, relatively few people were diabetic. Now an awful lot are. And this is bad because of heart disease, because of dementia, all sorts of things. And the advantage of doing these short bursts intense exercise is that the muscle soaks the sugar out of your blood. It reduces the need for your body to produce lots of insulin to get rid of that sugar, and that means that you are much less with risk of developing diabetes.
It does seem to be in the last 10 years or so you hear more about it, more people getting either early form of diabetes or full-blown, which I never really heard that before. So it's diet and obviously lack of exercise with that causes it, right?
Absolutely. It's the sort of sedentariness of modern life. People are moving less. I mean, most people are surprised we're actually probably eating less calories than we were 20, 30 years ago, but unfortunately we're also moving a great deal less. And that's why it's so important to build activity into your day. I mean, the great thing about fast exercise, which I write about in the book, is you can kind of do it anytime, any place. You don't need to put on gym shoes and an outfit and go out jogging. You can run up the stairs. You can get on your exercise bike. You can just simply build it into, if you go to swim, you just have a little burst. If you go for a walk, you can just increase the intensity. All of these things get your heart rate going, and all of these things are really good for your future health.
You have some pictures, diagrams in the book of the different exercises that you can do, and I guess you kind of recommend, as most exercise programs, try and mix it up a little bit. Don't do the exact same thing every day. You get bored with it, but you have a lot of variety here that you can do, right?
Completely right. And the other thing is that your body also gets bored with it. Your body gets conditioned to it, and the benefit begins to wear off. So there is an exercise regime that I recommend, and it's kind of alternate days. So on one day, you're basically testing and pushing your heart and your lungs with a kind of high-intensity, very short but high-intensity workout, which could be on a bicycle, it could be on the stairs. The next day, you're doing the strength and flexibility exercises, which will tone your muscles and increase your flexibility and your general well-being. So if you alternate the two, then it gives your body time to recover, because they're using different metabolic pathways. And then I also recommend that at least one day a week you don't do any of this stuff. You just give your body time to rest.
But then actually you build kind of a tolerance to it, too. You can do more and more as you move along, if you want to. Right?
Completely. I mean, one of the major risks when people take up exercise regimes is they go crazy. They think they need to do lots and lots of it. They do it, and then they get horribly sore afterwards, or they're full of muscle, and they give up entirely. I have a very, very carefully thought-out regime in the book, which takes you from incredibly modest beginnings to something where you are going to really begin to feel the benefits.
And one of the benefits that you talk about, we mentioned before about diet, but losing weight. A lot of people battle with the, around the midriff there, the waist. They can't seem to get rid of that extra pound or two of fat. But this type of exercise is better at burning it off than the longer form where you just run 10, 15 miles, isn't it?
And one of the reasons is that when you do the short bursts, your body produces a substance which they call catecholamines, things like adrenaline. It produces something like 800 times more than you would from doing standard low-intensity exercise. And what this stuff is, it does is it encourages your body to burn fat. And there are a lot of receptors in your gut that particularly encourages your body to burn the fat that is in your gut, which is particularly bad fat. And that's one of the reasons why high intensity is very good for burning fat, but also what it does is it suppresses appetite in a way that standard exercise does not. So that you will feel less hungry afterwards, and you will feel less hungry over the next 12 hours as well.
Well, good advice in the book. Again, it's called The Fast Exercise, The Simple Secret of High-Intensity Training. We've been talking with Dr. Michael Mosely today, who does a lot of work on the BBC. I didn't mention that before. And, Doctor, you have a website? People get a hold of the book?
You can buy it on websites like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and at any decent bookshop.
Doctor, pleasure talking to you for a few minutes, and hopefully we can talk to you again when you have your next project come out.